Vaccines are now open to almost everyone, but demand is lower than ever before. And former Vice President Walter Mondale died this past week.
The Chauvin trial's jury deliberations are in progress. And Venmo joins into the cryptocurrency craze.
All this and more right here on WCTV.
Welcome back to Channel 14 News. I'm Rachel Pellegrino.
And I'm Riley Holsinger. B-I-N-G-O. What's that spell? Bingo. Waynesburg's SAB hosted a bingo night on Tuesday. Reporting from the Benningham Dining Hall, here's Rachel Pellegrino.
Students grab their boards and join in the fun at SAB's last bingo night
N34
of the semester. Prizes included
aromatherapy, there is some digital cameras,
and much, much more. Events like these have been able to foster community amid COVID-19 restrictions.
I feel like the SAB events last semester went very well despite the COVID regulations, and that everyone worked together and it felt like a good community.
For WCTV, I'm Rachel Pellegrino.
Food Truck Thursdays have been a weekly hit among students. With only one more left for the semester, students are wondering if they'll be back next year. Reporting from the food lines, here's Riley Holsinger.
Without having a Chick-fil-A on campus this semester, students have had a chance to spend their flex dollars at the Food Truck Thursday events. Food Truck Thursdays have been a big hit among students, but the question is, are they here to stay?
The good news is that Aladdin has actually secured a food truck and that we will be having the food truck for next year.
The faculty notices the enjoyment of students from the added option to spend their flex dollars and time.
It's mostly good feedback. Everyone really likes the sushi. Everyone really likes that they're able to come out and meet with fellow students and socialize. It's been a nice social event.
The last Food Truck Thursday event for the semester will be held this week.
We're just thrilled that we were able to do all this the whole semester long.
Reporting for Channel 14 News, I'm Riley Holsinger. A local Waynesburg business is putting a fun twist on the term paying it forward. Lindsey Stenger has more on how this business is doing its part to spread joy during the pandemic.
A kind gesture is sometimes all it takes to make someone smile.
I'd like to pay for the person behind me.
At Killen's Table, the wall near the register is full of smiles for the taking. It's a delicious twist on kindness.
It was a very unique way to bring some positivity.
Positivity during a pandemic that has been especially painful for Lauren Davis.
Okay, come on now.
But recently, her lunch came with a helping of love.
Makes you feel good that somebody else is thinking about you even when you don't know who it is and they don't know who's going to take that.
Lori's a regular here who often noticed the envelopes and cards on the corkboard. But then one day, she spotted a message meant for her. It was addressed to someone touched by cancer.
And this is what marriage has been like all this
Her husband Dan died this year from cancer, less than 2 years after she survived her own battle with breast cancer. But she somehow finds the strength to keep going.
It's a struggle going through life without your best friends.
Yet she still pushes through, mostly for her son and the memory of another son whom she lost in a car accident a couple years ago. While there is no cure for grief, a little comfort can go a long way towards feeding the soul, even if they're tucked in an envelope and stuck on a wall.
A lot of times I have to force people to take it.
It's the kind of surprise that the chef Kelly hoped would bring healing, or at least support to strangers who need it most.
I guess it takes the right moment to realize that that message is for you, even though your name's not on it.
Not all the messages and free meals are as meaningful, but this board has definitely given customers something to dish about. In Waynesburg, Lindsey Stenger.
You could really touch somebody.
WCTV News.
That's all we have for campus and region news. When we come back, we'll have news from around the nation.
You're watching WCTV, where we aim to bring you the best local coverage of what you care about most. Everything from local businesses to hometown sports and the latest weather. We're keeping up to date with what you need to know about issues that affect our campus and our community. We're telling the stories that matter, celebrating our past, our future, and our potential. So tune in for all the latest buzz right here on WCTV Channel 14, Waynesburg.
All eyes are on Minneapolis as jury deliberations got underway late Monday afternoon in the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, charged in the death of George Floyd. His death sparked global protests calling for racial justice. Now the city is preparing for another round. Camila Bernal reports.
45 witnesses, 3 weeks of testimony, and more than 4 hours of closing arguments.
This wasn't policing. This was murder. Sometimes the use of force is just not that attractive.
Now it all comes down to this.
Members of the jury, the case is in your hands.
Derek Chauvin's fate rests with the 5 men and 9 women of the jury.
You must not let bias, prejudice, passion, sympathy, or public opinion influence your decision.
The defense arguing the use of force was appropriate, the crowd a distraction, and George Floyd's death the result of medical conditions and drugs.
The 9 minutes and 29 seconds ignores the previous 16 minutes and 59 seconds.
The prosecution placing the blame squarely on the former officer.
And the truth of the matter is that the reason George Floyd is dead is because Mr. Chauvin's heart was too small.
Outside the courtroom, a city on edge as the people of Minneapolis prepare for potential fallout from the verdict.
Chief Arredondo and I have made sure to center de-escalation in both policy and practice.
In Minneapolis, I'm Camila Bernal.
Former Vice President of the United States Walter Mondale has died. Mondale served as Vice President under former President Jimmy Carter. He would wage his own unsuccessful bid at the White House in 1984. Mondale later served as both the U.S. Ambassador to Japan and the Envoy to Indonesia under President Clinton. He spent his later years practicing law and teaching at the University of Minnesota. Mondale's family say he died at home in Minneapolis surrounded by loved ones. He was 93 years old.
April 19th, the day President Joe Biden said every adult in the country would be eligible to get a COVID-19 vaccine. States are delivering on his promise and millions of people have already been vaccinated. But as Britt Conway reports, health experts say the next hurdle is getting everyone else to do the same.
By no later than April 19th.
Today's the day. Every American 16 years and older is eligible to get a COVID-19 vaccine.
It's your turn now.
As of Sunday, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says half of U.S. adults have had at least one dose, a big step in the race between vaccines and variants.
That's the reason why you want to get our population vaccinated.
But demand is dropping in a number of states. A recent poll from Monmouth University shows about 1 in 5 adults say they're not willing to get vaccinated. The divide is mostly along party lines, with 43% of Republicans who want to avoid the vaccine, 22% of independents, and 5% of Democrats. The reasons vary, from a push to maintain personal freedoms.
This is a public health issue. It's not a civil liberties issue.
To distrust because of past mistreatment of minorities by health professionals, difficulty accessing the shots, not liking needles, or a lack of long-term safety data.
These vaccines are exceedingly safe. They're, I believe, safer than most therapies and vaccines that we have developed in the past.
Health experts say whatever the reason, it's all the more reason to keep talking.
Having that conversation in a way that doesn't make them feel judged or ashamed by having any kind of concerns or hesitations, and that allows them to at least feel a bit more comfortable with it.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
Wednesday, Biden delivers remarks on the COVID-19 response and the state of vaccinations. The White House is backing away from President Biden's words on Saturday that the influx of migrant children is quote-unquote a crisis. The words came in an informal meeting Biden had with reporters after a round of golf on Saturday. Calling it a crisis would represent a significant change in the language the administration has been using. The White House press office and Department of Homeland Security have refused to characterize the situation at the border in that way. Monday, the White House office clarified the president's statement, saying the term crisis applied to Northern Triangle countries. Those are Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, which have been beset by political strife, poverty, and violence. President Biden's spokespeople said that's what he was talking about, not his administration's response.
For the first time, the Supreme Court is being asked to make the Foreign Intelligence Service Court's secret rulings public. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court was established by Congress in 1978 as part of the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act. The ACLU is joining with other groups in an effort to get access to the court's secret opinions to see if it is violating the First Amendment. There is concern its far-reaching power could have implications for U.S. citizens who are not targets of the government's surveillance. The ACLU believes secret court rulings are dangerous in a democracy, allowing the government to peer into citizens' private digital lives. In the past, the Supreme Court has turned away previous requests, ruling that this is a matter for the executive branch, not the court to decide.
The oldest living American has died. Hester Ford passed away peacefully in her home in Charlotte, North Carolina on Saturday. The mother of 12 was born on August 15, 1904, which would make her 116 years old at the time of her death. Thelma Sutcliffe of Nebraska is now the oldest living American. Sutcliffe was born in 1906. That's all we have for news and national news. When we come back, Lindsey Stenger will have our business and entertainment update. But first, we have Caleb Yauger outside with a brief weather update. Caleb?
Hello, I'm Caleb Yauger, Channel 14 News here. Sunny and 69 today in Waynesburg. And what if I were to tell you that tomorrow morning it's going to snow? And I am not kidding. That's what it's calling for in the forecast. But stay tuned right here on Channel 14 for an extended weather forecast on WCTV.
Hello, I'm Lindsey Stenger with your business and entertainment update. The Academy Awards are this Sunday, but some people who were taking part in the Oscar polls were paying attention to what happened this past weekend. David Daniel has that and more Oscar news in today's Hollywood Minute.
If you're in an Oscars pool, one way to pick winners in the technical categories is to look at the various Filmmaking Guild Awards. Sound of Metal won top honors over the weekend from the Cinema Audio Society, indicating a possible win for Best Sound. For film editing, the American Cinema Editors gave their top prize to The Trial of the Chicago 7. And in cinematography, the American Society of Cinematographers feature film winner was Mank. Husavik, My Hometown from Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga is up for Best Original Song, and the town of Husavik, Iceland is doing all it can to win a place in Oscars history. It's created an official Oscar for Husavik website with promotional videos extolling the virtues of the small seaside town at the edge of the Arctic Circle. Most of Husavik's 2,300 inhabitants figure to be watching when the 93rd Academy Awards take place Sunday night.
Help Husavik to get shiny new Oscar!
In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
Venmo is getting on the cryptocurrency craze. Customers can now buy, hold, and sell cryptocurrency directly into the digital payment app. They only need $1 to get started, and that can come from existing funds within Venmo, a linked bank account, or a debit card. Customers are able to choose between 4 types of cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. The new feature also comes with a guideline on how cryptocurrency works. Last month, Venmo's parent company, PayPal, announced that users could pay for goods at checkout using cryptocurrency. As more Americans get vaccinated, many may be ready to hit the road. But the travel experts say that many cars that have been idled during the pandemic need to be serviced for safety. Mandy Gaither has more on what you need to get checked in today's Consumer Watch.
As the weather heats up, so does business at some local car repair shops.
What a difference a year makes.
Last year at United Tire and Service in Pennsylvania, it was quiet, but now business is booming. Company president Greg Minoff says many customers are gearing up for a road trip.
Our service bays are busier, our teams are busier. It definitely feels like we're back to normal.
AAA says road trips continue to be the preferred way to travel in the U.S. If your car has been sitting in your driveway for the past year, it might need a checkup. If you have a favorite mechanic, check to see if there are any changes to how the business operates in the pandemic. And appointments are encouraged, according to David Bennett, AAA's repair systems manager.
Is there a contactless drop-off where you can just pull up, drop the keys off, let them know? Or is there a drop box where you put the keys? So you want to know the process.
Bennett says there are 4 main things a mechanic should inspect. Your battery. Without use, it might have a lower life expectancy. Your hoses. Make sure they're not dried out or cracked. Your tires. Make sure they're inflated and not worn. And get your fluid levels checked. Make sure they're clean and filled.
Some of those are the oil, the transmission fluid, power steering fluid, brake fluid are the 4 most common that you want to take a look at.
And if you're hitting the road, don't wait until the last minute to head to a mechanic.
You should be 2 weeks or so in advance of a trip, getting everything prepared on the car, make sure it's right before making a trip.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Mandy Gaither.
AAA says some repair shops that used to offer courtesy cars during repairs may not be offering that during the pandemic. That's just another thing to keep in mind. But that's all for business and entertainment news. Up next, we've got Adam Morgante with your Waynesburg Sports Report.
Here goes Zuzik into the end zone, almost untouched.
The middle, back out to Delaney, 3 ball. How about, yes.
Cuts up inside, into the end zone. Touchdown, Trenton Carter.
Hello there, I'm Adam Morgante with your Waynesburg Sports Update. Mason Miller was an ace during his time on the Waynesburg University baseball team. However, COVID-19 shortened his senior season and potential to get drafted into the MLB last year. Where is he now? WCTV's Raleigh Holsinger has more on the story.
Mason Miller dominated this mound right here during his time at Waynesburg University, but COVID-19 cut his senior season short and what could have been his baseball career. But here comes the curveball. Miller and the rest of the Waynesburg baseball team only fit 10 games into their schedule before the NCAA canceled the baseball season, and for a moment, it looked like game over for his collegiate career.
Yeah, I mean, that was a thought for sure.
There were rumors that Miller could have been one of the 9.9% of all NCAA baseball players to have gotten drafted in the MLB, but the league trimmed the number of rounds from 40 to 5 last year, making those odds even slimmer.
Like I talked to some teams and things like that, but it wasn't, once the draft was 5 rounds, it was kind of realistic to assume that I wasn't going to get picked up.
Then the NCAA made the call to add an extra season of eligibility for spring sport athletes, and Miller started looking into his options at the Division I level. Thanks to some local connections, Gardner-Webb's head coach and Pittsburgh native Jim Chester stumbled upon the Bethel Park prodigy.
I guess it's one of the beauties of, having relationships from back where you're from.
Among those relationships, Waynesburg University Athletic Director Adam Jack, Miller's high school coach Tony Fisher, and Miller's high school assistant coach Joe Rinaldi.
The people that I mentioned to you, I trust, I know, there's lifelong relationships there.
Chester had some competition, but won the recruiting race. Miller made the flip from Waynesburg to Gardner-Webb.
Just for an environment similar to Waynesburg, I guess.
Going from a D3 school to D1 was an adjustment, but he pulled through with some impressive performances.
I'm definitely a more complete pitcher than I was a year ago. but at the same time, it's it's the same game. It's the same distance from the mound of the plate, same field, things like that. Like nothing changes truly, besides the talent that you're facing.
The one thing Miller misses other than punching batters out easier at Waynesburg is
teammates, for sure. Those guys are people that I made lifelong friends with.
He's a great kid. He's a great teammate. I know when he was here, he set a great example.
He'll be in my wedding one day for sure. I've told him when I have a kid, I want him to grow up to be just like you, because he's the ideal kid, man. Good grades, great personality, hell of a baseball player.
I was sad to see him go. The baseball team was too.
They still stay in touch, mostly by text, often breaking down each performance, good and bad.
Probably get on Chris the most of anyone, but he gives it right back too. So,
if I have a bad game, he'll text me and say, "What's up with your 2 strikeouts today?" And if he gives up a few earned runs or a home run, I always mess with him about that. I'm like, "So would you throw it right down the middle or something?"
As for his new teammates, they're happy to have him on the roster.
Not just because he's on our team, but he's the best pitcher in the country.
He's projected to go between rounds 2 to 6 in this year's MLB draft this July. What seemed like a dream only last year is now on the brink of becoming big league reality.
Listen, I draft Mason Miller in a heartbeat.
Despite the hype, Miller remains humble.
I think I've put myself on the map enough.
Miller did more than put himself on the map enough. He's among the most sought-after prospects. Coach Chester's been fielding calls from
every single MLB organization.
How often do they contact Coach Chester?
Daily.
Looking back, Miller describes his story as surreal.
It's crazy, man, for real. It's not something I thought I'd be doing, and it's amazing how much support I have from back at Waynesburg, from home, from all of that. It just makes your heart feel good, all that stuff. So,
reporting from Waynesburg, I'm Riley Holsinger.
Mason Miller has a record of 3-1 with an earned run average of 3.26 and 58 strikeouts through 49.2 innings pitched this season. The Waynesburg baseball team played Teal in a 4-game series this weekend, with Teal winning 3 out of the 4 games. Waynesburg won the first game 6-5. Tyler Woodrow hit the go-ahead 2-run single in the 6th inning. Teal won the remaining 3 games 17-1, 5-1, and 6-1, giving Waynesburg an overall record of 6-16. Its next game is this Wednesday at Chatham, with first pitch at 7 p.m. Now shifting from the mound to the circle, the Waynesburg softball team was in action this weekend as it hosted Geneva on Saturday, losing both games 12-7 and 7-3. The Lady Jackets were back at home on Sunday for Senior Day as Washington and Jefferson won both games of the doubleheader 8-2 and 6-3. Currently, Waynesburg is playing a doubleheader at St. Vincent as St. Vincent won the first game 14-8, and Waynesburg now has a record of 11-16 this season. Pine Richland head coach Eric Kasparovich and his entire coaching staff were fired last week, sending the Pine Richland and Pittsburgh community into a frenzy. WCTV's Jack Hillgrove has the details.
High school football is a big deal in Western Pennsylvania, and it doesn't get much bigger than at Pine Richland High School. In the last 8 seasons, the Rams have won over 80 games, 4 WPIAL championships, and 2 state championships. But that doesn't matter, apparently, because the administration elected last week to not renew the contract of Eric Kasparovich.
We're out here just supporting him and trying to get him back because he's such a valuable asset to Pine Richland and the whole community.
These thoughts are echoed by many players, coaches, and fans across the city and state. The Pine Richland School District fired Eric Kasparovich and his whole staff via an email last week.
I was shocked. I think at first everyone was trying to, kind of figure out what was going on and what had happened. And
Mike White of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette had the initial article, which included reported hazing allegations as the reason for the firing. But a lot of people thought that was bogus.
Someone was getting, whipped with a towel or something else. If that's what they're going to fire him over, then, every high school coach in the country should be fired for hazing because that stuff happens everywhere.
DiNucci was one of the best quarterbacks statistically in the history of the WPIAL. Kasparovich was his head coach for 2 seasons, and DiNucci, like dozens of other players, have nothing but kind words and fond memories of the man.
He cares more about you as a person than he does a football player. And, as long as you leave the program a better person than you were the day you got there, then, you were a successful player in his mind.
Another one of the reported reasonings for the Kasparovich firing was not enough stress on the academic side of things. However, DiNucci and many other Pine Richland players have received scholarships to play football at the Division I level.
I think if you look at, the number of players from Pine Richland who have gone on to play at college before Coach K got there and after Coach K, I think the numbers are probably, astonishing and in the favor of, when Coach K has been there.
When the position for head football coach at Pine Richland became officially open, Kasparovich reapplied. Coaches from all across the state have come forward in petition that no one other than Kasparovich should be the applicant for the job. Jack Hillgrove, WCTV Sports.
Now going from high school football to college football, the Waynesburg football team lost to St. Vincent 56-26 in Latrobe on Saturday, dropping to 0-4 to finish the regular season. They'll host Geneva on Friday night at 7 p.m. in the PAC crossover game, since Waynesburg finished in last place in the South Division and Geneva ended in last place in the North Division. Both the Waynesburg women's and men's soccer teams traveled to Beaver Falls to battle Geneva. The women's team won 1-0, improving to 3-5. The men's team lost 1-0, which gives them a 3-4-1 record on the season. Both teams host Franciscan for a doubleheader this Saturday to end the regular season. The women's game kicks off at 1, and the men's game begins at 3:30. The men's and women's track and field teams competed at Grove City this Saturday in the President's Athletic Conference action. The men's team finished 6th out of 10 teams, and the women's team placed 4th out of 10 teams. Both teams will compete in the PAC Championships next Thursday and Friday at West Virginia University. That's all for the busy weekend of Waynesburg sports. Coming up next, Caleb Yauger has your weather forecast on Channel 14 News.
Have you ever been to the Everly Library? If not, you should, because it's great. They have books of all different genres: history, biography, fiction. Try The Evolution of Life, Life of Pi, or Jurassic Park. So what if books aren't your thing? Try movies like Frozen, or TV shows like Lost. Books and DVDs aren't the only thing though. Take a trip to the second floor. Welcome to the Writing Center. These tutors will tell you everything you need to know about writing a paper, and they'll help revise your essays. Now let's head back down. Behold, the Knox Learning Center. Need to print something out 5 minutes before your next class because you procrastinated? No problem. You can also print off pictures of dogs. Because, well, you can. So grab your homework, laptop, and textbook, and study diligently. Bring your lunch too. Actually, you can't. That's illegal. Now you know the Everly Library. Stop by anytime. Seriously, it's open all week.
Hello, I'm Caleb Yauger with your Channel 14 weather report. We are almost there, Waynesburg. We're in the final week of classes, and finals are coming up next week. But here's a look at what we can expect for the weather this upcoming week. As we head into tonight, it's going to be a dramatic change in conditions, 36 degrees with a freeze watch. Tomorrow, the high will be around 43 degrees with a low of 29 degrees with some morning rain and even snow. In April, well, that's Pennsylvania for you. But when Thursday comes around, it'll be partly cloudy skies with a high of 48 degrees and a low of 32 degrees. And the high temperature is going to climb all the way back up to around 61 degrees on Friday for the last day of classes. And the low will be around 38 degrees with mostly sunny skies as the forecast. Heading into this weekend, Saturday looks like some afternoon rain with a high of 64 and a low of 44. Sunday is going to be partly cloudy skies and the high temperature will be 57 degrees with the low temperature being 35 degrees. There are no classes on Monday. It's the day of study for university students, so if you want to study outside or attend the activities in Johnson Commons, it's going to be sunny and 65. The low will be around 43 degrees. And finally, a week from today, next Tuesday, the 27th, the high temperature will be a pleasant 78 degrees, mostly sunny skies, with a low of 53 degrees. I'm Caleb Yauger signing off with your final weather report of the semester.
Thank you, Caleb Yauger, for the full weather report. While we are away for the desk, Chauvin, the former Minneapolis police officer, was just convicted guilty of second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter in the killing of George Floyd.
The trial started on March 29th, and on George Floyd's death was a little bit over a year ago, March 25th, 2020. Some would say that justice has been served for George Floyd's family. That's all we have for today on the newscast right here on WCTV. For Rachel Pellegrino and myself, Riley Holsinger, we hope you have a great night, and thank you for tuning in to the last newscast episode of the year.
This has been a production of Waynesburg Community Television.